it's an unprecedented ask of the U.S. Congress. But expect overall this message about democracy and the importance of preserving that across the world to come through in the president's message tonight. And of course, he is driven in part by his trip here to Israel. He's been working on the tweets to that speech, including on the flight home here after he spent several hours here in Tel Aviv. And while he was here, he did not get everything he wanted. Certainly, he didn't even make it to those meetings in Jordan because they were canceled that he was expected to go to. During those meetings, the president was saying afterward that he had a call with the Egyptian leader, that he thought they made progress on actually getting somewhere on sending aid into Gaza where it's so desperately needed. But he noted he didn't get what he wanted, which was getting civilians out of Gaza. So still some big asks on the table for the president as he's trying to navigate not just the war in Ukraine, but also now this newfound war in Israel.
And Caitlin, we're just learning now that the humanitarian aid trucks are not going to be allowed through the Rafah crossing tomorrow, as had been earlier suggested. What's the latest?
Yeah, our reporters who are on the ground outside that Rafah crossing, which is the sole crossing from Egypt into Gaza and is the critical way for that aid to get into Gaza because Israel says it cannot come through Israel. We are now, had been seeing evidence that they were prepared to open up the Rafah crossing. They were moving cement blocks. They were trying to repair the roads from where they had been damaged earlier this week. But now a United Nations source is telling our colleagues, Jake Tapper, Alex Marquardt, Jennifer Hansler, that they do not believe that is going to be opening tomorrow. Now, that doesn't mean it's not going to open, period. Maybe it will happen later this weekend. That's what White House officials have been hopeful for. But it just shows you the challenges, Wolf, that they have faced in trying to get this aid across the border. Because yesterday, the president said that the Egyptian president had agreed to open it up to let about 20 to 25 trucks of humanitarian aid, which have lined up. They are ready to go across that crossing into Gaza. That is something that officials in Gaza, people in Gaza have said is just going to be a small drip in the bucket of the actual aid that they need. But right now, it does not seem likely that that is going to happen tomorrow. It really remains to be seen when it does happen, if at all, Wolf.
All right, Caitlin Collins reporting from Israel. Thank you, and we'll see you, of course, again later tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern, for The Source from Israel. Let's bring in CNN's Erin Burnett right now. She's also reporting from Tel Aviv. Erin, today the Israeli defense minister rallied troops near Gaza. Does his message give any insight into when an Israeli ground incursion could actually begin?
Well, Wolf, I guess the one thing it gives insight into is that they know they have hundreds of thousands of troops sitting on that border who want to know what they're going to be doing and when they're going to do it. They have now been sitting there for 12 days. As they've been massing along that border. Some of those troops we've talked to, Wolf, have literally, they come in and out 40 minutes every day to sleep in barracks. They're sleeping in mats in the open air. They are waiting. The Israeli defense minister, the exact quote, Wolf, is, "You see Gaza now from a distance, you will soon see it from inside." Now, does that mean anything about the size? Is some of that more drawing a painting of what's going to happen as opposed to a specific indication of how big this will be? Obviously unclear, but the reality of it is, Wolf, is you've got hundreds of thousands of troops waiting, not home, eating at makeshift barbecues all along this border that we have witnessed. And I think it, at the very least, reflects that they know that these troops are on pins and needles and on the edge and waiting, and they need to go and give them some support and bolster them for whenever this is, and if it happens to involve a lot more waiting.
Erin, you spoke to a group of civilians who stepped up to defend their kibbutz from Hamas. Tell us a little bit about that.
Wolf, their story is incredible. So 6:30 in the morning, they hear rockets, they come in. One of them had actually hit his house on the second floor. He and his wife had run downstairs. They think that's it. They start hearing machine gun fire, and they go out. Now, they have trained, Wolf, to protect their kibbutz for 20 minutes until the Israeli military comes. That's the entire extent of their training. Well, it took 5.5 hours. And they managed in this kibbutz, Mefalsim, as you know, Wolf, to defeat those terrorists, and nobody died. So a lot of shooting in the village, a lot of fighting, but nobody died. This group of men, they were able to fend off the terrorists, and one of them talking about how many rounds, 250 rounds they were shooting. And here is part of what they said.
Eli shot from his kitchen, right? He shot from his balcony. I shot from in between houses of people I know all my life. He had to throw his kids over a balcony to another guy's house. I mean, it's unreal. It's unreal. It's not when you're a combat soldier and you go whatever to do, whatever you go. Okay, it's
totally different. We are civilian. You know,
Right.
we're families.
It's your homes.
We are not combat soldiers.
Totally different story.
Wolf, Wolf, I showed them the war plans that Hamas had to attack their kibbutz. They couldn't believe what Hamas knew about where things are in their kibbutz that they didn't even know. And one of them, Wolf, a very poignant moment. He said, I saw a guy. He looked like my friend, so I yelled his name. And the guy yelled back at me a name I didn't know. It turned out he was Hamas and I was Israeli. He said it was a moment when I realized how much we look alike. And then I shot him. So we'll have much more of that coming up later, Wolf.
We certainly will. Erin Burnett, thank you very much. And Erin will be reporting from Israel once again, right at the top of the hour for her program, Erin Burnett, out front. Next, let's go to CNN Sarah Seidner. She's joining us now live from Jerusalem. Sarah, Israel has been conducting some raids out in the West Bank as it wages this war against Hamas. How extensive are these Israeli military operations?
Very extensive, to say the least. You know, the Israeli military says it has been conducting wide-scale, what it calls counterterrorism activity in the West Bank, where they have arrested more than 60 Palestinians in the last day or so. I should also mention that the tensions in the West Bank very, very high, especially after that blast at the hospital, because the Palestinians basically do not believe the Israeli evidence or Israeli military's intelligence that Israel was not responsible for that blast. And they don't believe the U.S. intelligence that seems to, at this point, confirm the Israeli intelligence. They believe that it was undertaken by Israel, and that is something that they certainly cannot forgive and have been out protesting in very large numbers. But there have been smaller scale clashes that have ended in deaths of Palestinians. The Palestinian Authority said that there are about 7 Palestinians who have been killed overnight during one of those raids by the Israeli military, and so, you know, the Israeli military says in that operation in Tulkarem, they went into a refugee camp and ended up arresting about 10 people there, but 7 Palestinians, according to the PA, were killed. That is just ratcheting up the tensions, as you might imagine, in the West Bank, which of course is not run by Hamas. It is run by what the international community recognizes as the leader of the Palestinian people, the Palestinian Authority. Wolf.
Sarah, how fearful are Palestinians over there on the West Bank of Israeli settler violence?
Look, there has been an uptick, a big uptick of violence by settlers against Palestinians. I don't know if the word is fear. Yes, that is there, but it's more anger, it's more rage in having to deal with that as well. We do know that there has been an uptick because of this group named Beit Salem and others looking at the activity of settlers in the area, which has always been a flashpoint for Palestinians everywhere, but specifically and particularly in the West Bank. I want to let you see what Beit Salem, this group that tracks settler violence, that believes that it is a full occupation by Israel that needs to end. They say that the settler violence against Palestinians has risen in both frequency and intensity, with soldiers and police officers fully backing the assailants. Under the cover of war, settlers are carrying out such assaults virtually unchecked. That is the group Beit Salem, the Israeli human rights organization. I also want to mention that there are about 700,000 settlers in the West Bank, but conversely, they're terrified as well, and they will tell you so. And they constantly say, look, we feel like we are just defending ourselves, defending our families. And so you have this awful back and forth between the two groups. But internationally, the settlements are not recognized and are considered illegal. But this is a battle that has been going on long before this major war has started. Wolf.
Sarah Seidner reporting from Jerusalem. Thank you. We're also following new firefights along the Israeli-Lebanese border. CNN's Ben Wiedemann is joining us now. He's in southern Lebanon. Ben, what does the fighting look like around your location?
Well, if it's been another day of strike and counter-strike between Hezbollah and the Israeli army along the border, but there have been deaths and injuries. This afternoon, there was an incident where a group of journalists was pinned down by Israeli fire. They contacted UNIFIL, the UN peacekeepers in southern Lebanon, to ask the UNIFIL to contact the Israelis to stop firing. They did stop firing. They were able to get out, but according to the Lebanese army, one of those journalists was killed and another was injured. Meanwhile, there was rocket fire on the Israeli town of Kiryat Shimona, just south of here, where, according to Israeli emergency medical services, 3 people were injured. So there's continued tension here, but it still seems that the back and forth between Israel and Hezbollah is within the range where they're avoiding a full-out war so far. Wolf.
Let's hope. Ben Wiedemann reporting from South Lebanon. Stay safe, Ben. Thank you very much. Coming up, the breaking news continues with more live coverage from the Middle East. Also ahead, we'll have the latest on the Speaker of the House fight here in Washington. Congressman Jim Jordan pushing ahead with a 3rd Speaker vote, despite a lot of pressure from some of his fellow Republicans to drop out.
My little family is me, Aria, and Jade. Just the 3 of us girls. Yeah, this way. I never thought twice about feeding her kibble, but about 2 years ago, I realized she was overweight. She was always out of breath. That's when I decided to introduce the farmer's dog to her diet. It's just so fresh. She literally gets bubbles in her mouth. Now she's a lot more active. She's able to join us in our adventures. We're all able to do things as a family.
Get started at betterforthem.com. Stay tuned to learn more about this limited time offer from Renewal by Andersen.
We all have that list of home improvement projects we need to do, and if replacing your home's windows and doors is on that list, you want to know that it's going to be affordable. I'm from Renewal by Andersen, and we've helped thousands of customers who are on a budget get our windows and doors for their home. How do we do it? Well, here's something you don't expect to hear from a window company. You don't have to upgrade all your windows and doors at the same time. We're really good at identifying the bad windows and those you can wait on replacing. And here's something we offer that you don't find with a lot of window companies or contractors: great financing options. With Renewal by Andersen, you can have monthly payments that'll probably be lower than your cable bill. With another program, you can get windows and doors now and not pay anything for an entire year. It's almost like free money. No wonder half of our customers finance. Before we talk about the warranty, think about other things you've bought. Did it sometimes feel like you had to buy the expensive extended warranty to get the good coverage? That's never the case with us. Our windows are so durable and our installers are so talented. Unlike some other companies, our warranties cover the windows, patio doors, and the installation.
It's really impressive that they sell the product, they manufacture the product, they install the product, because then you're dealing with one company, and you're dealing with one company that has a long-standing and solid reputation.
Let Renewal by Andersen help put great windows and doors in your budget this year.
Before October 31st, buy one window, patio door, or entry door and get the next one 40% off. That's 40% off with a minimum purchase of 4. And our financing can help make this project more affordable with 0 money down, 0 monthly payments, and 0 interest for 1 year. This offer ends October 31st. For a free appointment with Renewal by Andersen, call 1-800-501-1400.
Bladder leak underwear has one job. I just want to feel protected, especially for those sudden gush moments when your keys are in the door and your body's like, it's happening. If you're worried about your protection, it's not the right protection. Always Discreet protects like no other, with double leak guards that help prevent gushes escaping from the sides and a rapid dry core that locks in your heaviest gush quickly for up to 0 leaks. And it contours to every body. Now this is protection. Always Discreet, the protection we deserve.
At Consumer Cellular, we offer amazing 5G coverage, backed up by incredible customer service. But that wouldn't mean much without super low prices. You already know we're up to half as much as the largest carriers. But guess what? AARP members can save even more. Yahoo!
Switch to Consumer Cellular now and get unlimited talk and text with a flexible data plan starting at only $20 a month.
Closed captioning brought to you by InventHelp. Call 1-800-710-0020.
Do you have an invention idea but don't know what to do next? Call InventHelp today. They can help you get started with your idea.
Call now. 800-710-0020.
We'll get back to the Middle East for much more on the breaking news in just a few moments, but first, an update on some other breaking news right here in Washington. Republican Congressman Jim Jordan now says he wants to hold a 3rd Speaker vote after lawmakers scrapped a plan to temporarily empower the interim speaker. CNN's Melanie Zanona is joining us live from Capitol Hill right now. Melanie, Jordan just met with many of the GOP holdouts. How did that go?
Yeah, well, Wolf, so far Jim Jordan is failing to change any mind. You saw a lawmaker just leaving his office. I'm standing outside of it right now. But he did huddle with some of his holdouts for over an hour just a little bit ago. Former Speaker Kevin McCarthy was also in the room. Interim Speaker Patrick McHenry was also there. But afterwards, Wolf, every single holdout that we talked to said their minds are not changed and they are standing firm in their opposition to Jim Jordan. In fact, during that meeting, we're told that they encouraged Jim Jordan to drop out of the race and that they delivered a pretty blunt message to him, which is that you're not going to be speaker and this is the right thing for you to do, which is to drop out of the race. And then something else that came up during the meeting, Wolf, are these threats that some of these holdouts are now facing because of their vote against Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan, of course, has denounced those threats, and during the meeting, he denied that he has any involvement in what has been an outside conservative pressure campaign at targeting some of these holdouts. So we'll see whether Jim Jordan is planning to carry ahead with this vote afterwards. Patrick McHenry, the acting speaker, said there are no decisions yet in terms of a floor vote and timing on that. Jim Jordan just said it was a good discussion, but we're told that if he goes ahead with another vote, he might bleed even more support. So at this point, Wolf, it is very clear that there is no solution in sight to end the chaos that has reigned in the House Republican Party for weeks now, Wolf.
Good point. Melanie Zanona, thank you very much. Let's discuss, joining us now, CNN special correspondent Jamie Gangel and our senior political analyst Gloria Borger. Gloria, this plan that they had to empower the temporary speaker has gone away apparently.
Whoops.
Is there any positive end in sight here?
Well, not at this point. I mean, one moment today, Jordan was all on board with that. We're going to have this Speaker pro tem, although he said he wasn't going to get out of the race, to give him more time to consolidate his support. And then next thing we know, no, he's decided he's going to run and not do the Speaker pro tem thing. So we really don't know what's going to occur. We know, as Melanie was just saying, that the holdouts against him are sticking. They're standing firm. And unlike McCarthy, who just had to worry about this group of rabble-rousers, Jordan has to worry about a lot of different kinds of people. He's got to worry about the centrists. He's got to worry about the people who thought he didn't treat Scalise the right way. He's got to worry about the McCarthy supporters. He's got to worry about the people who are getting death threats. And so he's playing whack-a-mole here. And so he's in a much worse position, I think, than McCarthy really ever was.
Good point, and Jamie, amidst all of this, some of the Jordan holdouts are actually, and this is hard to believe, but it's true, are actually receiving death threats.
Right.
Calls. CNN's Jake Tapper obtained an exclusive audio of one of these threats to a congressman's wife. I want to play a clip from that call, and I want to warn our viewers, it has some very disturbing language. Listen to this.
Warmongering piece of shit. So listen, you're going to keep getting calls and emails. I'm putting all your information over the internet now. Everybody else is, and you will not be left alone because your husband, Jim Jordan, or more conservative, or you're going to be molested like you can't ever imagine. And again, non-violently.
How is all of this playing, Jamie, out there among Republicans?
Oh, this is outrageous. And when you start with dysfunction and now you have death threats, this is the reason that the numbers, I'm told, and what Gloria said, not only will he lose again if he calls a vote, but his numbers are going to go in the wrong direction. So the Republicans have got to figure out now how to get themselves out of this, and tonight how to convince Jim Jordan not to call another vote, although the last source I spoke to said it could happen tonight.
Interesting. Gloria, there's some very important real-world consequences to what this chaos is causing right now. For example, President Biden in his Oval Office address will ask for an unprecedented package for Israel, but the House of Representatives can't do anything without a speaker.
Well, of course. And how does this look to the world? I mean, it looks ridiculous domestically, but also to the rest of the world when the president says this is what we need, this is urgent. And the House is so dysfunctional right now that the Republicans can't even come up with a person who can become Speaker of the House and lead their party. I mean, it's a symptom of a larger problem, obviously, in the Republican Party, and we could spend hours talking about that. But right now they have to figure out a way to get their act together. And at this point, Republicans have to figure out if they are willing to work with Democrats in order to do that. And because in order to get somebody to lead, even if it's a Speaker pro tem, they're going to have to work with Democrats.
But they can't even work with each other.
That's right.
Now, let alone work with Democrats. And look, I've spoken to sources on both sides of the aisle. The Democrats' attitude is, why should we get in the way of this? I mean, why are they going to help the Republicans
unless they could get something out of it?
Right, correct.
And the point is, you know, I spoke to one Democrat who said to me, look, we have, you know, this doesn't come for free. And there are things that they would want to guarantee, for example, on Ukraine, on votes on Ukraine, and on Israel, and on spending. And so, you know, would Republicans be willing to do that? Would the Republican conference say we'd have to have more than half of the Republicans in that conference agree to it? Or would we be willing to go with a minority of Republicans to agree to some kind of a coalition? I mean, it's all over the place right now.
Meanwhile, it's very, very chaotic among the Republicans in the House of Representatives. Guys, thank you very, very much, Gloria and Jamie. We'll have more breaking news just ahead. As sources tell CNN, the Rafah border crossing is not expected to open Friday. After all, further delaying vital aid from Egypt into Gaza. Plus, we'll get an update from the White House on what the president will say later tonight in his Oval Office address to the nation.
My store, my design business, were exploding, but my old internet was not letting me run the show. So we switched to Verizon Business Internet. They have business-grade internet nationwide.
Make the switch. It's your business. It's your Verizon.
How do we decide what hotel to book? Fear not. I got you. Choice Hotels has a hotel for every type of stay. Like a comfort with the kiddos. Spacious. That's what they all say. Stay twice and get a free night when you book direct at choicehotels.com.
Attention, everyone on Medicare. The Medicare annual enrollment period is now open. This is the only time of year when everyone on Medicare can call to enroll in a 2024 plan. Everyone on Medicare is encouraged to call, even if you called last year. The phone lines are now open. Just call 800-525-7116 now. The Medicare annual enrollment period runs for a limited number of weeks. The phone lines may get busy. Licensed insurance agents are standing by to take your call. 2024 plans are now available for enrollment. Just call the number on your screen and get a free, no-obligation Medicare review. This is a free call and there is no obligation to enroll. That's right, you can call the number on your screen and you don't have to enroll in a plan. Remember, the Medicare annual enrollment period is now open. There is no obligation to enroll. The call and Medicare review are free. Just call 800-525-7116 now. That's 800-525-7116. Attention, everyone on Medicare. The Medicare annual enrollment period is now open. This is the only time of year when everyone on Medicare can call to enroll in a 2024 plan. Everyone on Medicare is encouraged to call, even if you called last year. The phone lines are now open. Just call 800-525-7116 now. The Medicare annual enrollment period runs for a limited number of weeks. The phone lines may get busy. Licensed insurance agents are standing by to take your call. 2024 plans are now available for enrollment. Just call the number on your screen and get a free, no-obligation Medicare review. This is a free call and there is no obligation to enroll. That's right, you can call the number on your screen and you don't have to enroll in a plan. Remember, the Medicare annual enrollment period is now open. There is no obligation to enroll. The call and Medicare review are free. Just call 800-525-7116 now. That's 800-525-7116.
Stars Play in Abu Dhabi is the region's leading streaming service that brings you the magic of films and the excitement of sports to your favorite device, be it a television or your mobile phone. With a business like ours, we need a range of talent from technology as well as creative. we found Abu Dhabi to be our hub for accessing that type of talent.
The new CNN Prime Time is where the truth shines. The day's biggest stories. The night's most essential reporting. This is the new CNN Prime Time. Weeknights starting at 7 on CNN.
If you're over 50, imagine you could turn back the clock on your stiff, achy joints by years.
On tour, I can't let sore joints hold me up, so I use Instaflex Advance. It's restored my joints without just temporarily masking my symptoms, and without scary side effects. I told my whole crew they have to try it.
Get a complimentary sample just like texting yoga to 321321. Instaflex Advance targets the root cause of joint soreness and stiffness with a unique combination of 5 key natural ingredients found nowhere else. Key ingredients backed by 5 clinical studies.
Instaflex Advance is so powerful. I had better knees in just 1 week.
Instaflex Advanced is the #1 selling joint brand at GNC, but you can only get your complimentary sample by texting yoga to 321321. Plus, text now. It will include a tube of Instaflex pain cream for fast-acting relief in the pain of arthritis, backaches, and sore muscles. Absolutely free. Text YOGA to 321321 today.
I'm Manuajo on Capitol Hill, and this is CNN.
We're following the breaking news. Sources now tell CNN the Rafah border crossing in Egypt into Gaza is not expected to open up Friday to allow desperately needed aid to Gaza. CNN's Anderson Cooper is joining us live from Tel Aviv right now. So where it's early Friday already over there, Anderson, President Biden had expressed optimism the aid would start flowing within the coming hours, but now it doesn't look like it. What's the latest?
Yeah, that's right. Egyptian state television and an Egyptian security official had also indicated that they believed aid would start going on Friday. That apparently now, according to multiple sources, telling CNN that is not going to occur Friday. One U.S. official expressed some optimism perhaps Saturday that would occur, but they stress that this is a very fluid situation. There are some structural issues, they say, with the road in Egypt that needs to be repaired, damaged on that road to allow these heavy trucks to move across. As you know, Wolf, as you've been reporting, there's some 100 trucks with aid waiting to go in. There's also concerns by Israel about how that aid is going to be distributed, who it's going to go to. They don't want it to fall into the hands of Hamas and be used by Hamas gunmen. And also, there is concerns among U.S. officials about, and humanitarian officials about, is it just going to be 20 trucks, which is what, according to President Biden, Egypt's president had initially agreed to as a start. The concern among humanitarian officials is if people believe it's just 20 trucks and that's going to be it, there could be chaos in people descending on those trucks trying to get what's in those last 20 trucks. So they want to try to make sure that people know and that it will be a continuous flow of vehicles, not just 20 trucks, and that's it.
On another issue, a very sensitive issue, Anderson, I understand you had a chance to visit one Israeli kibbutz that was attacked by Hamas. Tell our viewers what you saw.
Yeah, this is the kibbutz of Mir Oz. No journalist had really been able to go there until today. The IDF finally, based on the security situation, allowed journalists to go. It is a scene of just horrific destruction. There are bedrooms with blood smeared on the floor where people were killed still. They buried 5 of the kibbutz residents there just today alone. There were some 400 people living there before the attack. As many, the official death toll right now is it's more than 20, but about 80 to 100 people are unaccounted for or have been kidnapped or are missing. And 2 people who've been missing were just confirmed dead today by or told the family yesterday, but we learned about it today. So I'll have more about it tonight on 360, but it is just a scene of slaughter that took place and mayhem.
Anderson Cooper reporting for us, and we'll of course see you later tonight on AC 360, 8 p.m. Eastern. As CNN learns that humanitarian aid isn't expected to arrive in Gaza Friday morning as originally expected, Brian Todd is taking a closer look at the major challenges the delivery operation will face. Brian, how difficult could all this be?
Exceedingly difficult, Wolf. We have new indications tonight that even when those aid convoys do get into Gaza, the operation could be far from smooth. Between bombed-out roads, confusion over what goes where, and the possibility that aid workers could come under fire. well over 100 trucks with tons of supplies idling on the Egyptian side of the Rafah crossing into Gaza. Stockpiles of food, water, medicine, and other aid to help displaced Palestinian civilians have already arrived in Egypt. President Biden says he has secured an agreement for the Rafah crossing to be open to allow as many as 20 aid trucks at first into southern Gaza. But aid officials say that's not nearly enough.
Needs to go in at scale. We need to start with a serious number of trucks going in, and we need to build up to the 100 trucks a day that used to be the case of the aid program going into Gaza.
Inside Gaza tonight, the desperation mounts. Empty shelves as food runs low. Long lines for the last remaining drinking water. Hospitals on the verge of collapse. No electricity, plunging the streets into complete darkness at night. Gas stations nearly depleted.
We have been here for 2 days trying to get water, and there is no gas. For God's sake, have mercy on us.
But once the aid trucks get in, experts say there are major challenges to get the supplies to those who need them most, starting with bombed-out roads.
Roads need to be repaired. There are major disruptions to the infrastructure.
Then there's the hurdle of actually directing the aid trucks.
Where do the trucks actually go in Gaza? Will there be central areas where they can park and these supplies can actually be in a coherent measure unloaded and provided without triggering chaos?
Another huge concern, will the humanitarian convoys and the aid workers be safe?
It is impossible to deliver assistance when there is airstrikes and shelling.
Israeli warplanes have already damaged the Rafah crossing near where the aid trucks have been staging. Could an aid convoy be hit by an Israeli airstrike?
Until now, there is no safe passage that's been granted.
And there's another security concern, the possibility that Hamas or other militants might hijack the aid for themselves.
At some point, there has to be clarification as to what secures these trucks from any kind of intervention by parties that simply are not entitled to the supplies on those trucks.
And again, the breaking news tonight, sources say that while the Rafah crossing is not expected to open Friday, it could open by the weekend. But we have to say that the on-the-ground bureaucracy there is also going to be a major hurdle. There are sticking points over who transports the aid between the UN, the Red Crescent, and other groups. And aid monitors say part of the deal to allow aid in is that each truck has to be inspected, to make sure that it's got only humanitarian supplies inside. Wolf, all of this just really problematic to getting the aid to the people who need it most and fast. It doesn't look like it's going to happen.
Yeah, so many lives are at stake right now. It's very, very important. Thank you very much, Brian, for that report. Just ahead, Donald Trump's legal peril could be growing tonight after one of his former attorneys pleads guilty in Georgia. What it means for his case, right after the break.
ADT Self-Setup, featuring Google Nest products. Now you can easily install your system that's backed by ADT's 24/7 monitoring with no long-term contracts. So you have a home with no worries. Brought to you by ADT.
To give your teeth a dentist clean feeling, start with a round brush head, add power, and you've got Oral-B. Round cleans better by surrounding each tooth to remove 100% more plaque for a superior clean. Oral-B, brush like a pro.
That first time you take a step back and see everything you've accomplished?
I made that.
With your very own online store.
I sold that.
And you can manage it all in one place.
I built this.
And it was easy with GoDaddy.
I am doing this.
With a partner that puts you first. Start for free at GoDaddy.com/sell.
Introducing Senecot Laxative Gummies.
I'm the easy way to relieve occasional constipation overnight.
Just take before bed, and the next morning,
it's showtime! And I've got mixed berry flavor.
Senecot Laxative Gummies.
Easy relief, the gummy way.
You keep dog food in the fridge? It's not dog food, it's fresh pet. Real meat, real veggies.
For a dog.
For Hank.
Whatever her name is, it's just wrong.
Mom? You're so lucky you're single.
Hi folks, Joe Namath here. The Medicare annual enrollment period is now. Do you know if your Medicare plan benefits are changing next year? Will your costs go up? Are your doctors still covered? Get answers in 3 steps. 1, call the toll-free number below by December 7th to speak to a licensed insurance agent. 2. Review your coverage for any changes to your Medicare plan for next year. 3. Learn if a Medicare Advantage plan that may offer additional benefits is available in your area.
I call every year to see what plans are available in my area.
I call every year to make sure my doctors are still covered under my plan.
They work with multiple insurance companies across the nation, so you'll have choices from a variety of plans. The Medicare annual enrollment period has a deadline. Millions have called. You should too.
Call to speak to a licensed insurance agent. Call 1-800-697-6200. Call now.
Frustrated by skin tags? Dr. Scholl's has the breakthrough you've been waiting for. The first FDA-cleared at-home skin tag remover, clinically proven to remove skin tags safely in as little as one treatment.
Sunday, how did Hamas orchestrate their massive attack on Israel? Sarah Seidner explores the history of this secretive and dangerous terror group and what comes next. The whole story with Anderson Cooper, Sunday at 10 on CNN.
My name is Ashley Cortez, and I'm the founder of the Stay Beautiful Foundation. When I started in 2016, I would go to the post office and literally fill out each person's name on a label. And now at ShipStation, we are shipping 500 beauty boxes a month. It takes less than 5 minutes for me to get all of my labels and get beauty in the hands of women who are battling cancer so much quicker.
ShipStation, the #1 choice of online sellers. Go to shipstation.com/try and get 2 months free.
Hey, stop changing channels. I'm out here in the woods, and you gotta see this. These solar gadgets from 4patriots.com are a godsend in a blackout. The Patriot Power Cell is a solar power bank that charges 3 devices at the same time. The Halo XT tactical flashlight, 9 life-saving functions to keep you safe. And the Sidekick solar generator, silent, fume-free, safe to use inside your home. Available only at 4patriots.com. Go now, that's 4patriots.com.
I'm Rafael Romo in Tel Aviv, Israel. This is CNN.
We'll get back to our breaking news coverage in the Middle East in just a few moments. We also want to share some significant new developments tonight in Georgia's election subversion case against Donald Trump and 18 co-defendants. Sidney Powell, a former Trump attorney, is now pleading guilty and agreeing to cooperate with the prosecutors. Let's get some more from our chief legal affairs correspondent, Paula Reed. Paula, this could potentially be a huge headache for the former president.
It really could, Wolf. This is the first member of Trump's inner circle to agree to plead guilty in this case. And as part of her deal, she has to testify at other trials. Now, sources tell CNN her deal came together less than 24 hours before she appeared in court today.
How do you plead to the 6 counts of conspiracy to commit intentional interference with performance of election duties?
Guilty. Former Trump attorney Sidney Powell appeared in a Georgia courtroom this morning, the second person to plead guilty in the sprawling case over efforts to overturn the 2020 election in that state.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the right to a trial by jury?
Yes. As part of the deal, Powell will admit her role in the January 2021 breach of voting systems in rural Coffee County, Georgia, be required to write an apology letter to the citizens of the state, and pay nearly $9,000 in restitution and fines, as well as turnover documents. Powell admits to taking steps after the 2020 election for the purpose of willfully tampering with electronic ballot markers and tabulating machines, which were overt acts to affect the object of the conspiracy, and with the intention of taking and appropriating information, data, and software, the property of Dominion Voting Systems. But she is not expected to face jail time. Prosecutors are recommending a sentence of 6 years probation. One name that did not come up at Thursday's hearing, her co-defendant, Donald Trump. The deal is the first by a member of his inner circle.
I'm going to release the Kraken.
Powell was among the most vocal of his lawyers in pushing outlandish claims about the election, including that millions of votes were flipped in a global scheme against Trump.
There should never be another election conducted in this country, I don't care if it's for local dog catcher, using a Dominion machine.
Repeating those conspiracy theories eventually proved too much even for Trump, and she was ousted from his team. And her plea raises new questions about a deal in the federal election subversion case. Trump is the only individual charged in that indictment, but Powell has been identified by CNN as one of the 6 co-conspirators listed by special counsel Jack Smith, who has signaled other people could be charged.
The Department of Justice has remained committed to ensuring accountability for those criminally responsible for what happened that day.
That federal trial is expected to begin in March of next year, and it could be the only prosecution that Trump faces ahead of the 2024 election. But at this point, it's unclear if anyone else will be charged or if Powell would even be interested in a deal. Now, what we're looking for is whether Kenneth Chesebro, another Trump-affiliated attorney who was expected to be charged and tried alongside Powell in Georgia this month, whether he too will strike a deal and what that could mean for the federal case against former President Trump. Wolf.
We shall see. Paula Reed, excellent report. Thank you very, very much. Coming up, a U.S. warship shoots down missiles, potentially aimed at Israel. We have details. We'll share them with you when we come back.
Stop starving your skin and start feeding it True Skin Vitamin C Serum. True Skin has what skin craves. A different form of vitamin C that's gentle on skin and effective until the last drop. With nutrient-rich blends to keep skin glowing. True Skin. Get what your skin truly craves.
A lot of people need to replace their windows or patio doors, but they put it off because they think it'll be too expensive. Hi, I'm Ann Romer. I'm here with Michael Smith from Renewal by Andersen. You really work with the customers to find affordable solutions.
We do, Ann. We're the replacement window division of Andersen, one of the largest window manufacturers in North America. So we can usually offer our customers larger discounts and better financing than smaller companies or contractors.
Other window companies don't offer your same window and door installation method.
Our installers have installed thousands of windows. Our windows are manufactured to precisely fit your specific window openings. Being custom built also means if you have any beautiful trim that you'd like to keep, we can often install your windows without impacting that trim. You won't get this with most vinyl windows.
And you offer a free window and patio door diagnosis?
We do. We'll come to your home and assess your current windows, show you where you might be losing energy, and take measurements. Then we'll leave you with an exact price quote that's good for an entire year.
So you're not a high-pressure company.
My background is in home remodeling as a carpenter. I've seen every window problem out there. So now I just want to help homeowners make their homes more beautiful and comfortable with the right window.
And your patio doors are really gorgeous.
They are. And they're engineered to easily open and close for years. And with multiple locking points on our patio doors, they provide even greater security.
That is so great to hear, Michael. Thank you.
Before October 31st, buy one window, patio door, or entry door and get the next one 40% off. That's 40% off with a minimum purchase of 4. And our financing can help make this project more affordable with 0 money down, 0 monthly payments, and 0 interest for 1 year. This offer ends October 31st. For a free appointment with Renewal by Andersen, call 1-800-501-1400. That's 1-800-501-1400.
Okay, again, this is a status bar, this is a search bar. Let's know the difference, okay? Social media. It can be overwhelming for a young homeowner turning into their parents.
Now, what does it mean to slide into someone's DMs? That sounds like a lot of fun.
Okay, we're not ready for that. As a team, we'll get there. It might be a fruit emoji, but that doesn't mean they're talking about fruit.
Progressive can't save you from becoming your parents, but we can save you money when you bundle home and auto with us.
Okay, do you really think we need 47 photos of fun dinner at Pam's?
Yes.
No.
The new CNN Prime Time is where the truth shines. The day's biggest stories. The night's most essential reporting. This is the new CNN Prime Time. Weeknights starting at 7 on CNN.
You want to see a trick?
Sure.
I can make anything you want appear on that TV.
Superheroes.
Superheroes.
Well, cute animals.
Cute animals.
Wizards.
Wizards. Did you like my trick?
I saw the remote.
With you, keeping the whole family entertained. Search endless content with the magical Ignite TV voice remote. Rogers, with you all the way.
No one plans to accidentally fall overboard. But if you do, having your life jacket within reach might not be close enough. Want to see what happens next? Scan the QR code or come to enjoyboating.ca. And you can decide what happens to our struggling boater, when within reach might not be close enough. A life jacket left on board won't keep you floating.
I'm MJ Lee at the White House, and this is CNN.
We're also following other breaking news out of the Middle East tonight. The Pentagon now says a U.S. Navy destroyer shot down several missiles and drones that were launched from Yemen. Let's bring in our chief national security analyst, Jim Sciutto. You're working the story for us, Jim. What do we know about this intercept and the risk, potentially, of escalation in the Middle East?
Well, Wolf, when my colleague Oren Lieberman and I first reported this afternoon, what we knew at the time was that a U.S. destroyer off of Yemen had intercepted multiple projectiles, missiles, target unknown. It had successfully destroyed those missiles. The question was, where were they headed? Were they targeting those U.S. ships or elsewhere? What we learned over the afternoon, as the Pentagon said, is that they believe those missiles were headed northwest towards Israel. Of course, the danger there was that the Houthi rebels, which the U.S. believes fired these missiles, they are backed by Iran. They follow orders from Iran. Was this an instance where another front is being opened up against Israel in this war there? As you know, there are U.S. assets around the region. You have two carrier groups in the eastern Mediterranean. Of course, you have numerous ships in the Arabian Gulf and off the coast of Yemen, and they could use their capabilities, including anti-missile capabilities, to take out potential threats, and that's what appears to have happened here. Of course, the danger, Wolf, is escalation not only involving Israel, another front opened up on Israel by, in effect, a proxy group, the Houthis, controlled by Iran, but also you have U.S. forces in the line of fire in the Eastern Med, in the Arabian Gulf, and off the coast of Yemen. And it shows you, Wolf, potential for escalation of this war. Does Iran choose to open up another front through its proxies, whether the Houthi rebels or Hezbollah north of Israel? And do U.S. forces pose a danger, in effect, of getting involved? That's the real concern here of U.S. officials, and it's why you've heard the U.S. president from the beginning say, if you're thinking about getting into this, Iran and others, don't think about it.
Yeah, keep saying don't. Jim Sciutto, excellent report. Thank you very much. So let's discuss this and more with retired General Frank McKenzie. He serves as commander of the U.S. military's Central Command. He did serve as the U.S. military Central Commander, which is responsible, as we all know, for the Middle East. General, thanks so much for joining us. How concerning are these intercepted missiles from Iran-backed Houthis in Yemen? Are they trying to take advantage of the tensions in the region that already exist?
Wolf, it certainly looks like an escalation, opening another front against Israel, attacking from another direction. But it matches other activities that Iran's been backing for the past few days, including attacks by their proxy forces against our soldiers and Marines in Iraq and in Syria. So it's sort of a pattern, and frankly, it's disturbing.
Yeah, this is very disturbing indeed. And on Israel's northern border, as you well know, the IDF exchanged even more fire with Hezbollah today. The UN says one person was killed. Just how much could this conflict escalate into multi-fronts?
So the possibility of an attack, a large-scale attack against Israel from Lebanon, initiated by Lebanese Hezbollah, is really the most significant threat I think Israel faces. They have many, many thousands of highly precise rockets and missiles that have been provided by Iran. They brought them across Syria into Lebanon. They're ready to fire. They're hidden in schools and mosques and in places and in private homes. It would be a very difficult targeting problem for Israel. However, Lebanese Hezbollah will make its own calculation. I think if they launch a large-scale attack against Israel, Israel will come in very heavy against them. And in 2006, it was a bloody war for both sides, but Lebanese Hezbollah was hurt pretty badly from that. And so I think they'll have to think very carefully before they decide to come into this conflict.
Good point. Israel's defense minister, General, he said today that troops will soon see the inside of Gaza. But explain why you've said a full-scale Israeli ground invasion would become, and I'm quoting you now, a bloodbath.
I think an Israeli ground invasion of Gaza would be the most difficult military operation anyone could contemplate. I've trained for a lot of my career in operations in an urban environment. It's densely packed. You're fighting below the ground in sewers and in tunnels. You're fighting on the surface of the earth. You're fighting in residential buildings and high-rise buildings. At low altitude, Israeli drones would proliferate, but Hamas will also fly drones. Overhead, the IDF, the Israeli Air Force, the IAF, I should say, the Israeli Air Force will own the skies and be able to deliver precision fires. But here's the thing. The Israelis will be very attentive to the law of war. They will attempt to avoid mass human casualties. Probably not going to be able to do that completely, but they will do everything they can to avoid that. On the other hand, what Hamas wants and needs are mass casualty events in order to operate in the information space. They will use, in effect, not only the hostages that are there in Gaza as human shields, they will use the entire population of Gaza as human shields. It would be a very difficult tactical problem for the Israelis. I know they're poised down there on the border, ready to go in. I don't know when that will occur. I do know this, the one thing the Israelis can control is when this starts. And so they'll look very carefully at what will give them the maximum tactical advantage when they go in, Wolf.
Israel doesn't appear to have a specific plan, at least not that we know of, for Gaza. If it does eliminate Hamas, goes in on the ground, eliminates Hamas, how important is it to prepare for what comes after potentially an Israeli ground invasion?
That is the most important part of the plan, as we know from our own experience in Iraq. A successful combat operation needs to be succeeded by some form of political event that sets a path for the future. And the Israelis need to give a great deal of thought to how Gaza is going to be governed after combat operations are complete. And, the choices aren't great. Hamas has clearly duped us, the Israelis, and the world for the last few years by, looking moderate while planning for this terrible attack that occurred in southern Israel. So I don't know that they're the partner. There are other possibilities for partners. You would hope that other nations in the region will get involved. But all wars have to have a political end. And the Israelis need to think very carefully about how they're going to craft the political end of this war.
Yeah, good point. General Frank McKenzie, the former commander of the U.S. military's Central Command, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Wolf. Good to be with you.
Thank you. Coming up, as we get closer and closer to President Biden's wartime address to the nation tonight, we're standing by for new information about what he will say.
This is a keepsake frame. This is actually a photo from my wedding. I'm Adam Weiss, founder and CEO of Keepsake, the mobile app that makes it easy to have your photos printed, framed, and shipped to your doorstep. You just choose a photo that you love, you can preview it in over 100 frames, and in a couple of days, you're going to receive your photo in a beautiful, handmade frame. So if you've got a special photo on your phone, install the free Keepsake app. We would love a chance to frame it for you.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. This is an important message for everyone on Medicare. Attention everyone on Medicare. Today we are talking about 2024 Medicare Advantage plans. If you don't have a 2024 Medicare Advantage Part C plan, call now because there may be a Medicare Part C plan with additional benefits.
is sustaining its own defenses about 18 months after Russia's unprovoked invasion. But it's safe to say, Wolf, that the president is addressing a skeptical audience tonight. While there's overwhelming support for Israel's ability to defend itself, there is not a clear consensus about what the U.S.'s role should be, and public support for the war in Ukraine has waned and has become a very bitter partisan debate, Wolf.
Kayla Tashi at the White House for us. Thanks very much. And to our viewers, thanks very much for watching. I'm Wolf Blitzer in the Situation Room. Aaron Burnett on Front starts live from Israel right now.
Out front next, live from Israel. Breaking news, the U.S. Navy intercepting multiple land attack missiles and drones. The Pentagon officials say we're potentially targeting Israel. It comes as Israeli officials say that the Army has been given a green light to wipe out Hamas. We're going to take you live near the Gaza border tonight. Plus, a new dispatch from inside Gaza out front. You're going to hear tonight from the brave CNN journalist who's been documenting what it's like inside Gaza exclusively. Out front tonight, he says airstrikes are intensifying where he is in southern Gaza. And the incredible story of how a group of volunteer Israeli guards took on Hamas and protected an entire community from a massacre. And what they found on the bodies of dead Hamas gunmen, even more chilling. You'll see their story. Let's go out front. And good evening. Welcome to a special edition of Out Front. I'm Aaron Burnett, live from Tel Aviv tonight. And out front tonight, we begin with breaking news. Shot down. CNN is learning that a U.S. warship stationed in the Red Sea near Yemen has intercepted 3 land attack cruise missiles, some of them potentially heading towards Israel. According to the Pentagon, all of them were fired by Iranian-backed militants and heading north along the Red Sea. You can see how far away that is from Israel. This development comes as Israel inches closer to a potential ground invasion of the Gaza Strip. Israel's defense minister today telling forces that are stationed along that Gaza border, we've seen so many of them, there's 350,000 of them, it's impossible to miss them. He goes there and says, you see Gaza now from a distance, you will soon see it from inside, the command will come. You'll soon see it from the inside. Inside Gaza, of course, millions of people, more than 2 million people in a 25-mile long, tiny strip. The defense minister's words, an ominous sign of possible urban combat, fought not only above ground, Fallujah style, but below. As we've reported, Hamas fighters have a massive network of tunnels that almost certainly are housing not just militants, but hostages tonight. 203 of them, according to Israelis' latest numbers. Israel and Hamas could be locked in a months-long war, which is why tonight, in less than an hour, President Biden will be speaking to the nation. It is only the second time he has delivered an address from the Oval Office. Biden expected to press Congress for another $100 billion, the majority of that aid for Israel and Ukraine, seen as inextricably tied together by this administration. Tonight's address coming after the president announced this morning that the U.S. had secured a deal with Egypt and Israel to send that critical humanitarian aid into Gaza. I want to show you some new pictures of the aid trucks because we have some reporters and even some of those truck drivers talking to CNN, lined up as long as the eye can see. It looks like the border leaving Ukraine did. That's to go into Gaza. Supplies. It is unclear when those trucks will actually be allowed to enter. Close counselor of the Prime Minister Netanyahu said that crossing would open tomorrow, but sources tonight tell CNN that the Rafah crossing is not expected to open on Friday. And every hour is of the essence. You know, we've been talking to various people inside Gaza, getting just brief clips of them dispatches because you can't get a signal established to have a real conversation with anyone there. American Wafa El-Saka is there. She's a retired art teacher from Florida. She traveled to Gaza to visit family before the war broke out. She's now trapped. She sent us this audio message of what life is like tonight there.
This is a trick for me in this war. It's an open graveyard. It's death everywhere. You could smell it around you. You could feel it. It's scary. We're all scared. I'm scared when the night comes, but I'm scared also when the day light comes out. Don't know what to expect.
And you will hear much more from Wafa coming up, because the dire situation there is we're learning new details this hour about the explosion at that hospital in Gaza City. According to U.S. intelligence assessment obtained by CNN, It's believed there were likely 100 to 300 people killed in the blast. Not 500 as Palestinian officials alleged. Although I think it's important when I say that to say 100 to 300 innocent lives lost is a horrific thing. It may be less. It's still an inexplicably horrible number. We have a team of reporters standing by. Oren Lieberman is at the Pentagon. Nick Robertson is live along the Israel-Gaza border. And MJ Lee is at the White House this hour. I want to begin with you, though, Oren, at the Pentagon with this breaking news, disturbing news, that U.S. warship near Yemen. That is not close, okay? You're not talking about Gaza or Hezbollah. This is all the way in the Red Sea, intercepting multiple projectiles, drones, land attack missiles. What do you know about this?
The Pentagon says the interceptions here, those 3 cruise missiles as well as some drones, were potentially targeting Israel. So you can see what that would take. The Pentagon says they were launched by the Houthis, Iranian-backed militants in Yemen who fired them, and they were moving north along the Red Sea towards Israel. And that likely why the Pentagon says that Israel may have been the target here. It is worth noting there is, of course, the destroyer, the USS Carney, that intercepted these drones and missiles. But there is also the USS Bataan, an amphibious assault ship, and a Marine Expeditionary Unit in the Red Sea. So that perhaps also a potential target. On the Red Sea, there's the Israeli resort city of Eilat, right at the southern tip there of Israel. That perhaps what the Pentagon looks at in seeing these missiles heading north and saying, look, this may have been the target. Either way, Israel and the U.S., not the only threat they're facing in the region. In Iraq, over the course of the past 2 days, there have been a wave of drone attacks against U.S. and coalition forces there. So the U.S. facing pressure there, even as U.S. officials, including Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, are trying to keep this from becoming a regional conflict. Aaron, Austin spoke with Arab and Israeli officials earlier today to try to make sure that the U.S. has Israel's back, but also to try to keep this from spreading. Right now, that seems a very tall order.
Oren, thank you very much. And let's go to Nick Robertson on the border with Gaza, where he has been over these past 12, 13 days now. And Nick, you just saw tank fire and flares, hearing heavy machine gun fire. So how does this compare to what you have been hearing, especially in light of the Israeli Defense Minister saying you will soon see the inside of Gaza? What does soon mean where you are?
Yeah, I think everyone's looking to see if there's any signs of an incursion. And just looking over my shoulder here, where we were seeing the tank rounds where the flare was hanging in the air, there was a second one a few minutes ago, and hearing that heavy machine gun fire come from over there. That's exactly the area you would expect an incursion to go in from. Heavy machine gun fire, tank fire, and flares are exactly the sorts of things that will be associated potentially with an incursion. We're having had some heavy explosions slightly ahead of that. So when we see that here, we watch really carefully. Does it build into something? Is it the beginning of an incursion, or is it just a little bit of tension along the border fence there? But you go back to 2014 at the time of the last incursion, that is exactly where Israeli forces went into Gaza, in that area. So that's why we're watching it so closely. And yes, the defense minister today, when he was visiting IDF forces, some really heavy detonations there as well. When he was visiting IDF forces, saying, look, it won't be too long before you're in Gaza. We've been hearing from other officials who are saying flatly and clearly the politicians have given the green light to the military. It's down to the military now to decide when to go in. In Israel's war with Hamas, more than 60 of the terror group's operatives arrested early Thursday in the West Bank. The clock now ticking on a far more dangerous phase of the war for the IDF, going into Hamas's heartland, Gaza.
The Israeli government made a decision.
Politicians have now given the green light to the military in Israel to go in when you're ready.
Expectations for a long war, and for the first time hinting at what an end of war may look like.
The politicians have given the green light to the military in Israel to go on in whenever they see fit.
Dichter, a former head of Israeli security, says what Israel wants is the level of security control they currently have in the West Bank. Complete access on their terms.
Today, whenever we have a military problem, in every single place in the West Bank, we have
administration, it has to be built another administration.
But as these plans take shape and troops prepare to go into Gaza, airstrikes are triggering international calls for a humanitarian pause to ease civilian suffering. Dichter rejects the need for a pause.
We don't activate against civilians.
But there are civilian collateral damage.
In a war, à la guerre comme la guerre. In a war, we do understand, and unfortunately we've suffered.
With or without a pause in strikes, 20 trucks loaded with humanitarian aid are expected to enter Gaza from Egypt soon. Against the scale of need,
Politicians have given the green light to Israel's military. Go on into Gaza whenever you want, whenever you're ready. Politicians have given the green light.
Top diplomat, if you will, is calling for that humanitarian pause. Aid, he says, in from Israel to get the hostages out. No indication that it's actually going to take root and happen.